Welcome back, everybody, to Justin Godsey TV. I'm your host, Justin Godsey. Thank you so much for checking out today's video. We are here talking about the WWE Battleground pay-per-view, and I'm continuing on with my previews for most of the matches here on the card. And now we're going to be looking at the Bray Wyatt versus Chris Jericho matchup. Everybody is just happy to see this matchup. The WWE is finally putting, a good rivalry on Bray Wyatt, a guy who a lot of people are saying, should have won the Money in the Bank match. And I agree with them. Bray Wyatt should have been, the winner, but you know what? You also got to look at guys like Roman Reigns, who've been making a big name for themselves. I was ultimately, rooting for Roman Reigns, but going down the line, the WWE did have something set up for Roman Reigns. But Bray Wyatt, he could have been a legitimate champion. But after the matchup, a lot of the wrestlers are going in separate directions. John Cena is the champion, and now we're having this big fatal four-way, leaving Bray Wyatt out of the picture. Chris Jericho was making his return, and then Bray Wyatt needed someone. What's next for Bray Wyatt? That was the big question. What's next for Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho? That is where WWE just, puts the hammer to the nail, and it just, connects. Fantastic. I'm really, so excited for this matchup. I think this is ultimately going to be a match that steals the show. A lot of people are like, what about Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins? I love that. I am looking forward to that match. But, you're having, the future of the WWE and Bray Wyatt against the past. It's old school versus new school. It's kind of like, the John Cena versus Kurt Angle or something like that. But it's, completely different styles. But it has that kind of, tone to it. This is a very interesting build-up. Chris Jericho, him and The Miz made the return back, in the WWE show a couple of weeks ago in Hartford, Connecticut, and The Miz was cutting this promo on how he should be the next big thing. He's done a lot of movies and everything, being in the Marine, and then Chris Jericho just cuts his promo off, and then all of a sudden we hear Chris Jericho's music, and everybody in the crowd went nuts. And this is where it's like we're going to see Miz versus Chris Jericho. You have your rocker, you have a guy who has sold thousands upon thousands of albums with Fozzy. He has his own podcast. The Miz has done movies, a number of movies. So it's pretty much these guys who have hit mainstream, or The Miz has hit somewhat mainstream. That's what our original impression was. But after Chris Jericho attacked The Miz, we heard the Bray Wyatt violin, and it goes "Duh!" And then all of a sudden the lights turn back on, and then you see Bray Wyatt standing across the ring from Chris Jericho, and you hear the crowd go, "This is awesome." I am backing this up so much right now. This is going to be a fantastic matchup. Now, it continues on over the weeks. Chris Jericho had a match a couple of weeks ago. I actually missed out on this past Monday's Raw, so I don't know the latest lingo with the whole storyline. I remember, a couple of the week after, the Chris Jericho return, he had a match in the ring, and then Bray Wyatt makes his appearance on the ringside area and starts talking on how Chris Jericho, followed the buzzards, cutting one of his legendary promos. Bray Wyatt, a formerly Husky Harris, this is such a great character. He's getting by the fans. The fans love Bray Wyatt. I love Bray Wyatt. He's going to be someone fantastic to watch for the future. He's a legitimate champion. He's championship ready, but he needs that ultimate push, and having him in a match against Chris Jericho will do it. Now, it's very hard to draw the line between, Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho on who needs it more. Now, Chris Jericho is, Chris Jericho, I think he's in his 40s right now. He's kind of like Rob Van Dam. He's a guy who's going to be making his, return to the WWE. Chris Jericho's 43 years old. I just looked that up right now. Chris Jericho, he's not going to be that guy to go out there and be on the road on a constant basis. I think he's coming back to play, warm up. He's coming back here to the WWE. I'm not trying to disrespect Chris Jericho. I'm a big fan. I'm a Jericho-holic. But you know what? He's a guy who's going to come back. He's a big name in the company. He's coming back against, one of the rising names of the company, and Bray Wyatt, who's coming off a great rivalry between John Cena and a lot of questions what was going forward, but you're putting him a match against Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, I can see losing this match. If Bray Wyatt really needs that legitimate win here that can place him back into the title picture. He needs to somehow break away from this Chris Jericho storyline going down the future. I think this is going to be a reoccurring matchup. I would love to see. I can see the WWE having this go long term with Chris Jericho versus Bray Wyatt, but how long will it be? How long will we have to see Bray Wyatt play second card here to the to a WWE title race. He needs to really get this victory. He needs that big name out of himself. He really needs that big victory over Jericho that will solidify him. I'm going after the championship. And you know what? I would love to see this match go to at least Night of Champions, and then from there you can have Bray Wyatt just go in there, no matter who's the champion, whether it's Brock Lesnar, whether it's John Cena, whether it's Roman Reigns, whatever the case may be. But you know what? At the end of the day, at the end of this storyline between Bray Wyatt and Jericho, the guy who really needs this victory right now to start off this rivalry is going to have to be Bray Wyatt. He needs that big name. I would love to see Chris Jericho. Like I said, it's going to be kind of like how Cameron is, but this is going to be a whole new thing. I can see Bray Wyatt winning the big pay-per-view matches, but you know what? I can see Chris Jericho taking over on Raw. I can see him having winning by the fans. Having the fans go with Jericho over Wyatt on Raw and SmackDown. I can see Bray Wyatt coming into the pay-per-views and winning the big matches. So at the end of the day, at the end of this video, I'm going to be going with Bray Wyatt. I like what Bray Wyatt is coming about. I love this whole new storyline. This could be an all Wyatt family night because you have the Usos versus the Wyatt family in a 2 out of 3 Falls Tag Team Championship matchup. I'm going to be previewing that match next. So like I said, I'm going with Bray Wyatt to defeat Chris Jericho at Battleground 2014. Let me hear your guys' opinion about this. I'm Justin Godsey, and I'll catch you guys in that tag team match preview.